John Van Dyke here for New Jersey Exposed. Today is Saturday, May 30th, 2020. So there's another story here that's in the Star Tribune, and it's captioned, Derek Chauvin in custody, other officers lay low. And let's see what it has to say, because we're all very curious what's going on with the other three officers, why they're being allowed, why they're not being disciplined, why the charges are not brought up against them, or they're not getting disorderly conduct, you know, the catch-all one. Okay, so I'm going to read the story, and then I'm going to skim down it, because there's a couple things here I was interested in. As the Twin Cities enter an anxious and uncertain weekend, fired Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin is in custody and accused of murder, while the three other ex-officers present at George Floyd's fatal arrest are keeping an extremely low profile. I suspect they're at the Mexican border by now. Too tall, that's the too short Asian officer. Videotape watching as Chauvin continued to press on Floyd's neck with his knee has left Minnesota, his lawyer confirmed Friday. Criminal defense attorney Robert Pauley, whatever, said Tao is safely elsewhere and that he couldn't comment further. J. Alexander Cohen, one of the two first officers at the scene who helped pin Floyd down, is believed to be staying with family in Minneapolis. Thomas K. Lane has left and didn't tell anyone where he was going, a relative said Friday. That's probably a smart thing to do. Turn your phone off. Go down to Walmart and get one of those pay-as-you-go phones and give it to your lawyer, and I would leave it at that. I probably wouldn't even give it to family. Protests continue to erupt across the Twin Cities after Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman announced murder and manslaughter charges against Chauvin and said he anticipated charges against Tao, Cohen, and Lane, but declined to speculate what they would be. With social media pages scrubbed, phones turned off or disconnected, and people now fearing violence, details on the men are getting hard to come by. Chauvin, 44, the man at the center of the crisis, is married, but his wife, blah, blah, she's getting divorced. We know about that. She's devastated. And there's something else here I want to get down here about him in the nightclub. Chauvin worked ununiformed, off-duty security for years at El Nuevo Rodeo, a large East Lake Street dance club in Minneapolis. A block from the 3rd Precinct. It's a neighborhood that has experienced some of the heaviest rioting. According to the former owner, Maya Santa Maria, Chauvin, this is where I'm saying they know each other. I talked about this in the other video. For about a year, Chauvin worked the club most weekends for about 16 years and really became my main guy here. For about a year, George Floyd also worked security at the club, but she said she doesn't think Floyd and Chauvin crossed paths. Well, if he's the main guy handling security, he is going to be dealing with the bouncers. So in that respect there, I think she's not being truthful. Let's continue. She and Chauvin were friends, she said, but customers did complain about him. She's burying this guy right here. She said, Chauvin was quick to get hardcore, Santa Maria said, and was uneasy with the crowds on Twerk Fest Tuesday when the club catered to more black patrons. Now, that's not looking good for Chauvin, because I've said up to now they've been unable to link it with racism. That's the Democrats doing that. I've seen him in action, and I've seen him lose it, and I've called him out on it before. Well, if you got a guy that's a loose cannon in your club, why is he working there? He's a lawsuit waiting to happen. I've told him it's unnecessary and unjustified some of the ways that he behaves. He just loses it. But one of the reasons they like to have these cops working there is that when something goes down at the club, the cop handles it. Because one thing a bar or a nightclub does not want, and that's problems where the police have to show up. If you're a bar owner and the police are showing up at your bar, you are going to lose your license. So by having police officers work there, that keeps that little problem in check. Chauvin's work history at the Minneapolis Police Department includes more than 15 conduct complaints over his 19 years with the department. Almost all the complaints were closed without discipline, police internal affairs records show. Duh. They always find it unfounded, unless there's video, and even then we're not sure. The allegations were suggesting the allegations weren't sustained. The nature of the complaints wasn't made public. In 2011, he was among the officers at the scene when Minneapolis police officer Terry Nutter shot and wounded Leroy Martinez near the Little Earth community. According to police, Nutter fired after Martinez suspected a different shooting, raised his gun and when dropped it, Martinez recovered and was charged in an earlier shooting. In 2008, Chauvin shot and wounded Ira Latrell Tolles during a domestic assault call. When Chauvin and his partner arrived at the South Minneapolis apartment, Tolles holed up in the bathroom. Chauvin forced his way in, and during a struggle, Tolles allegedly grabbed for Chauvin's gun, and Chauvin fired, hitting him in the abdomen. In 2006, Chauvin and 5 other officers responded to a 911 call about a stabbing in South Minneapolis. The suspect, Wayne Reyes, tried to drive away in his truck, then pulled over. Police said he got out and swung the barrel of a sawed-off shotgun towards them. Several officers fired shots, killing Reyes. Lane's relatives, who asked not to be named out of fear of retaliation, cried as he described Lane and how he feels he has been misrepresented. No, he has not been misrepresented. He was there and he allowed it and he did nothing. He's not a good cop. If he's a good cop, he's covered for the bad cop. Here we go. The bullshit alert's going off again. Lane, who detailed in charges of pointing a gun at Floyd before handcuffing, later asked whether the officers should roll Floyd outside as he was trained. We're devastated, the relatives of Lane said. Our whole family feels terrible. This isn't him. This isn't what he worked all his life for. Well, apparently it is. He was caught on video doing it. I love these things like, oh, my son would never do that, and there's the video. Yeah, well, your relative there did, and he has, and he is, and, you don't see what he does every day when he leaves the house. You're caught up with the propaganda myth. He described, our whole family feels terrible. This isn't him. This is what we worked all his life for. No, he worked all his life for a pension. He described Lane, a 37-year-old Twin Cities native, as a compassionate and amusing and insightful person. He got married in 2018 and was excited about continuing the family legacy and law enforcement. See, again, you got an officer who's getting a job, not because he's qualified, but because it's a long tradition. He's got a relative. Lane's grandfather, blah, blah, who cares? He called Lane's a legacy officer who received his law enforcement license last August. He doesn't have a bad bone in his body. Well, apparently he does, he said of Lane. This is just a terrible event, and I feel bad for the lives lost and the Floyd family. Not all cops are bad. Well, not all cops are good either. And the good ones, well, they're unemployed. You know how that goes. And if there are good ones still on the force, they're keeping their mouth shut and going with the flow. See, again, this mind virus that, oh, not all cops are bad. There's different degrees of the badness. You ask any officer, you a bad cop? No, I'm a good cop. And you've asked anybody, you think there's any bad cop? Well, there's bad apples in every bunch. There's a lot of bad apples in this bunch. Reached by phone, a local relative, Kuek, said there's no way to comment, so don't start. So anyway, oh, too tall here, too short. The Asian guy, Tao, 34, had 6 unspecified police conduct complaints filed against him. Records show 5 were closed without discipline. What a surprise. But one was open at the time of his firing. Tao, along with another officer, was also the subject of a 2017 police brutality lawsuit. Lama Ferguson alleged that in 2014, the 2 officers told him they were serving a warrant for his arrest and beat him, breaking his teeth. Then he was handcuffed. The city of Minneapolis paid $25,000 to settle the civil rights case. You know, the writing is on the wall about these bad officers. What's it going to take? Are politicians that blind and naive that they don't... You and I, we get it. We get that blue line of bullshit they cover for one another. And this is why these cops get charges brought up on them and they never get disciplined. Nothing ever happens. We never find out what the discipline is. Even though we are the employer, we don't know what happens to our employee when they act up. But there's always writing on the wall with them. There's always a history of them doing something. And a lot of times they just seem to squeak by without getting fully in trouble for it. But the writing's on the wall, and I'll give you an example. Joe Dixon, remember that name? He was the officer down in Millville Police Department, South Jersey. He was the poster boy for the officer using the most use of force against citizens. He had something like 50-some incidents of use of force, punching people, things like that. I think he had one lawsuit going on when the final one happened. Shot somebody or something. And when they asked the chief of police about it, oh, he's a good cop, he's doing a good job, he's got a tough job out there, he's a good guy. And it turns out he's not a good guy. He ended up taking out Audra, I forget her name, Audra, whatever her name is, took that 50-year-old woman who weighed about 100 pounds, soaking wet, probably about 5 feet tall, and flipped her over his hip and landed on top and broke all her ribs. Broke like 7 ribs. She told me she had to endure numerous operations. She couldn't work. They finally fired this SOB. They brought charges against him, and he'll never be a police officer again. And once again, the cops, the taxpayers will have to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars to Audra Capps. That was her name, Audra Capps. And you know, the police chief is still there. I say you got cops in your department are a known problem and you're aware of it and you're the police chief and they're on your watch and this crap like this goes down, that's it, you're done. You're out of a job too. But it'll never happen. Never happen. And the mind virus in lily white America's brain, the cops have a tough job and you know they're out there protecting and serving us, is what enables all this bullshit. This is what enables cops to get away with what they do. This is Sean Van Dyke for New Jersey Exposed. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. Till next time.